Today we'll be looking at the movie Fall from director Scott Mann. Now the film is basically the story of two friends, Hunter and Becky, who at the beginning of the movie have a traumatic experience while mountain climbing. The tragedy has a huge impact on both of them, and when we see them a year later, it's obvious that they've both become self-destructive, but in very different ways. Hunter has become more daring and reckless, while Becky has withdrawn from everything and everyone and is basically drinking her life away. Their paths intersect again when Hunter shows up at Becky's door with a plan to help them both get past what happened. She's going to climb a 2,000-foot abandoned radio tower, and she wants Becky to make the climb with her. Hoping to overcome her fears and reignite her love of life, Becky reluctantly agrees. And they set off to the remote area in the desert where the B-67 tower is located and start to scale one of the highest structures in the world. And even though we've seen the movie, my knees still go weak when I see that.
Yeah, mine too. Now, to start off, I loved the characters, Hunter and Becky. I thought they had great personalities, and I really liked their humor, especially Hunter's.
I agree. The actors, really quickly, Virginia Gardner plays Hunter, and Grace Carolyn Currey plays Becky. I hadn't seen them in anything before this. I think they were cast, and I think the way this plays out, because they're really experiencing some of this stuff, it feels very real.
Yes, it does. Now, this movie was kind of like a roller coaster. So much was happening all at the same time, and there were so many feelings, at least for me, happening and thoughts happening in my mind.
I agree. I know what it is to have your palms be sweaty now. I don't know if I ever had that experience before I watched this movie, and my knees went weak several times. We went to a drive-in to see it. I was crawling up the seat of the car at times and screaming at the screen, "Don't do that. Stop. Yeah. What are you doing?" So yeah, I agree.
Yes. And then another thing that my palms were sweaty, something that made that happen was the shots were so high up, and you knew that they were high up, but some of the shots really showed that, and it showed it really well.
Yes.
I thought was amazing.
Cinematography was incredible, and it really did. It put you there. You felt like you were there with them. And it was, my head spun at times. Like, I had vertigo watching it. I really did. Yeah. I think everybody has this thing about heights. I don't know. Some people, climbers probably aren't afraid of heights, but this thing is just this needle that goes so high up.
And it doesn't even seem like the foundation on the bottom is good either.
No.
Another thing I liked about it was there were vultures around and on the tower, and that really added an extra almost adrenaline rush to the movie. And I really liked it, although it made me worry a lot more. Yeah,
it definitely added tension to the film. It was foreshadowed when they were going up to the tower. Yes. The vultures were foreshadowed, but I really didn't realize how they were going to play into the plot.
Right.
Agreed.
Speaking of the plot, I really liked the plot twist. I didn't expect it at all, and they honestly kept it a secret for a pretty long time in my mind. And when the secret was revealed, it was, to me, mind-blowing.
Yeah, I kind of figured it out just before it happened. They did take me in, though. I was taken in. And then your mind kind of reels because you're trying to figure out, well, wait, when did this happen and how did, you know? So you try to sort that out. But I agree, that was it added something to the film that it wasn't as straightforward as I thought it was going to be.
Right. The last thing I will say is I liked the ending. I thought it was good, but I kind of just wanted a little bit more movie, like 5 more minutes, because they're partially climbing this tower because Hunter is a YouTuber, and she was filming a video while they were climbing the tower. And I kind of wanted to see if that video was actually posted. We didn't get to see.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I did feel like it ended a little abruptly. I wanted a little more, and that is actually probably what I wanted. Exactly what you said. I wanted a little more information at the end. Part of the reason it worked so well for me, I don't know that I feel that it was the best scripted movie because it relied on its main characters making very foolish choices. They broke into this thing because it was locked off. The ladder was loose and they weren't checking the ladder, things like that. It relies on that. But you know what? If they do those things, then there's no movie because the tragedy or the traumatic stuff or the scary stuff doesn't happen if they do that because they never climb. So part of the reason this works so well is it's not in front of a green screen. It's not done in the volume the way The Mandalorian is. It was actually filmed. They found up in the Mojave Desert, they found this 2,000-foot cliff. And they got the company that built the original B-67 tower to come in and build basically the top of that tower on this cliff. So they put about a 100-foot tower on the top of the cliff. So basically where the actors are on the top of this tower is about 2,000 feet above sea level, which is the equivalent of what the real tower is, and therefore the elements and the conditions would be the same up there, the wind and what have you. In fact, I watched an interview with the director where he said they were above the clouds at times, and planes would fly by and they might be below, the planes would be below the actors.
Really?
So, they were actually up that high, and they would get the establishing shots from the real tower, but then they would film on this and they would film it in such a way that you couldn't see the cliff. So this was done in a real setting. And I'm sure there was some real fear involved for the actors. Although through the course of the film, the characters seem to acclimate to being on the tower much better than I would. I would have lashed myself to that pole in the middle and I would have never.
I wouldn't have acclimated to the tower. For some reason, I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that they were actually this high up. And even though it was only 100 feet to the cliff, it was still 2,000 feet all the way to sea level.
Right. Now, they used the same team that did Mission Impossible on the Dubai Tower to actually as the stunt team or as the safety team. So there was a safety element there, but I don't care. When you look down, there is nothing below you, especially when you're looking off the cliffside from the top of the tower. So very effective. Now, I did do a little bit of research, and when you look up the B-67 tower, no matter how I tried to look it up, I always came up with the KXTV KOVR tower in Walnut Grove, California. The director kept talking about a tower in Arizona that this was based on, but the highest tower I could find in Arizona was 600 feet, which is still high, but it wasn't 2,000 feet. So when you look it up, this is the tower that comes up. I'll just give you these facts and leave it at that. It's 2,049 feet tall. It's the third tallest guide mast in the world, and it's the seventh tallest structure to ever have existed. And people, I think one of the reasons they made this film is there was a YouTube video of a guy that climbed a mast like this. I don't think it was this one, but it was one that was fairly nearly as high. And he climbed it to change the light bulb on the top. And this video got millions of views because I think people are just intrigued by this. I remember seeing a video of when the CN Tower in Toronto, when they put the top on the antenna or the needle or whatever it is on the top, and this came in by helicopter, and there was a guy up there that had to guide it in, and he had to actually fasten it. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? Or we saw that image of Tom Cruise out the top of the Dubai Tower when he was there. Or there was a stewardess where they filmed a stewardess from this one of the airlines over there, and she was up there, and I'm thinking, how do they have I know they're lashed in there, I know there's safety, but I can't imagine. I mean, at the same time though, I couldn't look away because there's a curiosity factor, right? I mean,
I always wanted to look away, but every time I would go to look away, I would always go back to watch it because I couldn't miss any part of it.
And what was interesting to me is we saw this at the drive-in, and we had gone to the drive-in a couple weeks before, and they advertised this movie. And you kept talking about it, and you really wanted to go to it, and I kind of was intrigued too. And we went because you wanted to go, and I was crawling on the seats of the car, and trying to look away, but looking at the same time because but it was amazing. And I will say this, we saw 3 films at the drive-in this summer. They were double features, all of them. We saw
Cruella.
No, that was last year. This is this year. We saw Doctor Strange, Thor in this film. In the second film, each time was Top Gun Maverick, which we absolutely love. So for Thor and for Doctor Strange, I couldn't wait to get to Top Gun Maverick. I just wasn't that into those films, and I kind of forgot that I even saw them that night. Obviously, you did because you thought we saw Cruella. But for this film, I was into this film. And this one stayed with me. And even after I saw Top Gun, I still enjoy Top Gun Maverick, but this film still stayed with me. And that's saying something.
I think I was the most awake. Out of all of the times we went to the drive-in this summer, I think I was the most awake for this time that we went. Because Top Gun Maverick is obviously, I wanted to stay up for it. But this movie, I couldn't fall asleep during it.
No,
you couldn't get tired from it.
And at the same time, I was exhausted after it, though.
Right.
I was exhausted after it because I went through this experience with them. So, for me, if I'm rating it strictly as a scripted film, it definitely has scripting and story issues, but as an experience, and it's different. I know a lot of people, it's a movie, it's not supposed to be a theme park ride. Well, it's still exploring something that I think all humans have as part of their psyche, which is dealing with heights. For me, I'd say it was a 7 out of 10 because I enjoyed the experience of it. And I certainly felt like it was really happening. I want to say like they were really experiencing this situation. Some of the scripted elements that they were experiencing, not so much, but definitely the heights and the climbing and the issues.
I really looked at this movie, from my point of view, it was for fun. And looking at it that way, I actually give it a 9 out of 10. And the reason why I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 is because there were some kind of like gory parts in it. And the ending was, I would have liked to see a little bit more movie. But other than that, it was a really good movie, and I really enjoyed it.
So I give it a 7 out of 10. You give it a 9, so it's an average of an 8 out of 10. That's not bad. It's certainly an interesting experience at the movies, one like I've never had before. I've seen Jaws, I've seen all these different things. This one, I've never squirmed so much in a film as I did in this one.
Yes, it felt really real to me.
Definitely.